Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. Hello, welcome back to Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. I know there hasn't been too much on the YouTube since the Tom Yeager podcast. By the way, if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to go ahead and click on that one. It is an absolutely all-time chat. We talk about a lot of things rugby league. We talk about his journey with his weight loss. We talk about a bunch of stories as well from his time, obviously, during his weight loss journey and what he's doing now. And then there's more exciting stuff to come in the future with us as well. So get stuck into that podcast. It is an absolute ball. We had a great time. We chatted for an hour and a half before the podcast. We chatted for an hour and a half during the podcast. And then probably 2 hours after the podcast, we were still chatting away. So it's a great yarn. Make sure you go ahead and click the, should come up here at some point during this podcast. If you're watching on the YouTube, so make sure you go ahead and watch that one if you haven't already. And subscribe to the YouTube. Got plenty of great content. Considering doing a few previews on the YouTube as well. We might do one long preview for the YouTube and then cut it up into smaller previews for the games. I'm still sort of considering. We'll see how this one goes and, the viewership, things like that, how interested you guys are into previews and things like that for the YouTube. But make sure if you haven't already to subscribe. There's plenty of great content coming out on the YouTube, so stay tuned. But we're going to preview Vegas. We're going to go through the Raiders and the Warriors, and then we're also going to touch on the Panthers and the Sharkies as well. We'll go into what our best bet is via NRL. We're going to be using NRL this week. Similar to last year, we're probably going to use 2 to 3 different betting companies throughout the year. We're going to mix it up every week, hopefully, at some stage, but just depends on time and things like that and what's easier for me to use. But we'll probably switch between Sportsbet, NRL, a few other different betting agencies, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But let's get stuck into these Vegas games. We'll start off with the Raiders taking on the Warriors. The Raiders are the underdogs in this one, $2.21 to the Warriors, $1.67. Let's take a look at the lineups for the Canberra Raiders. We've got KO Weeks at fullback. We've got Savelio Tamale and Xavier Savage on the wings. Matsumoto and Sebastian Chris in the centres. Ethan Strange and Jamal Fogarty in the halves. We've got Corey Horsburgh and Joseph Tarpanay in the front row. Tom Starling is at 9. We've got Hudson Young and Zach Hosking in the back row. Morgan Smithies at 13. We've got Owen Paddy, Simi Sasangi, Josh Papali'i and Ata Mariota on the bench. And your reserves are Danny Levi, Trey Mooney, Ethan Sanders, Chevy Stewart, and Jed Stewart. For the Wars, we've got Chance and Nickel Clockstart at fullback. We've got Tane Tuapiki there on one wing with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck on the other. Ali Leotua on one centre. We've got Adam Pompey in the other. Chanel Harris-Tavita gets the first crack at 6 with Luke Metcalf in jersey number 7. We've got James Fisher-Harris and Mitch Barnett in the front row. Wade Egan at 9. We've got Kurt Capewell and Marata Niokore in the back row with Aaron Clark at 13. Dylan Walker, Jackson Ford, Dimitrik Valmunga, and Aleka Halasima on the bench. Your reserves are Sam Healy, Tamari Martin. We've got Eddie Aremia Toiva. We've got Bunty Afoa and Edward Cozzy there as well in jersey number 23 to round out those reserves. Talking about a few matchups here, what are we looking for going into this game in Vegas in the first round of the competition? What are some of the things that we're looking out for in this one? Certainly for me, the fullback battle stands out. KO Weeks going up against Chance Nickel Clockstart. Chance, more known for his defensive coverage out the back there at fullback. Really, really crafty, and he's really added a few layers to his game as well since leaving the Canberra Raiders. He's added a really good passing game that's developed over the past few years, hence obviously some time throughout last year, whether it be for New Zealand or the Warriors, in the halves, in those rep duties. Obviously played at 5'8" as well in the Māori All-Stars game as well. But yeah, really worked on his ball handling throughout the past 2 seasons, and he's been absolutely killing it in that department too. So Chancellor Clockstart seems to be adding more and more layers to his game as his career goes on, but he's certainly one of the better fullbacks in the competition. You've got KO Weeks, the young gun, the young kid who is absolutely carving up in the fullback position. Obviously came to the Canberra Raiders as a half. We all thought that he was going to be the next 6 for the Canberra Raiders. The battle between him and Ethan Strange was a massive watch last year. He's locked down the spot now at fullback, and it looks like that's his spot moving forward. He absolutely killed it in the trials. Obviously set up a try for Ethan Strange, which just blew everyone away. It was probably the moment of the entire trials period there for those 3 weeks. But KO Weeks, absolutely outstanding footballer. The main thing for him, it is the attack. We talked about Chance. The main thing for Chance is the defense. The main, proponent of KO Weeks' game, when we think about KO Weeks, it is the attack. It's the speed, it's the ball handling, and obviously just the versatility that he has in his arsenal. The fact that he can play in the halves, he can play at fullback, obviously killing it at fullback at the moment. But I absolutely love KO Weeks, and he's not the guy that I probably would have had at fullback or would have had him at 6 and Ethan Strange in the centres. But this Raiders team, it does look very good. And after watching KO Weeks at fullback in the trials, getting reminded of what he did so well last year at fullback, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Let's move into some other matchups here and some big talking points. I guess the big one for me is Chanel Harris-Tavita in the 6. Obviously, 1 week there for the Warriors in the number 6 jersey with Luke Metcalf, and he obviously gets that 6 jersey locked down. Keen to see Chanel Harris-Tavita play. I also think that for the last year coming back into the competition, he did suffer from taking that year off. He had that year off 2 years ago, comes back last year, in and out of first grade. I think that by the end of the year, though, we sort of started to get an idea of this is what we were missing out on for that year that he was gone. Real talented footballer, Chanel Harris-Tavita. Keen to see if he does keep that jersey, because Tamane Martin, he does have a lot of experience and is a very talented footballer himself. I almost feel like that game at fullback for Tamane Martin sort of pulled him out of that jersey. Because he played so well as a fullback. Maybe now he might just be a bit of a backup in the spine. But Chanel Harris-Tavita, absolute gun. I cannot wait to see how he goes there in 6. But Metcalf's going to be the watch for me. Obviously killed it in the trials and showed us that he's the number 7 in this side moving forward. We said it all pre-season. Who should be the number 7 at the New Zealand Warriors? Does it hurt the kicking game a bit? We know, but we all said it was Luke Metcalf. He's a gun. Attacking wise, he's got so many positives to his game, roaming both sides of the ruck, creating havoc, great ball skills, his understanding of the game. You know, we might not have thought, we probably would have thought it was at a 6 level, but, you know, he's clearly got a great understanding of the game. He's clearly up to playing in that halfback jersey, and, you know, we always thought that he was going to get there here in Big LEZ'S League. We always thought that Metcalf was going to be the 7. That's the prediction that we had at the start of the year, and looks like he's nailed that jersey. So, keen to see how he goes. Really crafty footballer. One of my favourite watches from the preseason, and I think that that's pretty much his jersey moving forward at the New Zealand Warriors. Obviously going up against Jamal Fogarty, who has a little bit more experience. Yes, obviously in the lower grades. Only recently come up, obviously, and played for the Gold Coast Titans. Played there 2 years, obviously now at the Canberra Raiders in what is his 2nd year there. So he's been in the competition for about 5 years now. Jamal Fogarty, real good kicking game. I think that it's something that Canberra missed last year. We sort of got a hint of that in the trials. Didn't play too many minutes, Jamal Fogarty, but his kicking game is terrific. He's got such a good kicking game and temperament to his game as well. It complements these crafty 5'8" of KO Weeks and Ethan Strange very, very well, whoever sits in that jersey. It is Ethan Strange in this one, but he does complement a very crafty 6 really well, just with his temperament, the way that he approaches games, his kicking game as well. It just allows these guys like Ethan Strange and KO Weeks to do their thing and have those low percentage plays, be very crafty, roam both sides of the ruck and just create havoc with their passing and running games, particularly the running games. That's definitely something to watch here with Ethan Strange and KO Weeks. The running game and in their spread sets, that left-hand side, it is going to be a watch. And obviously, it's going to be a tough night in the office defensively for Tane Tuapiki and probably Adam Pompey on that right edge with Ali Leatua, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck reigniting that trial combo on the left side. But yeah, look, that is going to be a tough mission for that right side for the Warriors. Other watches in this one, obviously Fisher Harris, his first official game as a New Zealand Warrior, already played there in the trials, but his first official game as a New Zealand Warrior. Barnett, him and Barnett up front. He obviously got them going up against Corey Horsburgh and Joseph Tarpanay. Big call here, obviously pushing Josh Papali'i to the bench. Yes, he's one of the older veteran forwards in that side. I think that this was always going to happen at some stage. It just looks weird. You're always used to seeing Josh Papali'i and Joseph Tarpanay there up front. for the Canberra Raiders. But having Corey Horsburgh there now, I always knew he was going to start. Did I know he was going to start at 8 rather than 13? Not really. But look, watching Morgan Smithies and his progression during the trial period and just watching how he's worked on his game, defensively very solid, was doing a lot more than what we saw last year. Last year, he came in, he did the basics, ran well, was tough in defense, really aggressive. And that's what we sort of expected from a Pommy and a lot of the other Pommy forwards that come over. They always show that level of aggression, that toughness. But he sort of come in this year and really started to add layers to his game. And we saw that in the trial for Canberra when he started there at 13. Just the ball playing, through a few unders plays for some of his other forwards as well. A bit of a passing game right at the line. He is starting to add those 13 characteristics to his game, which I really, really like. I feel like if he didn't do that this preseason, he'd probably move into the front row, and I think that's very understandable. But I think that it's exactly what Canberra have needed as well. They've needed a lock forward who can get the ball to either side of the field. And Morgan Smithies, he's certainly turned into a guy that can do that for them as well. And especially when you've got, we sort of talked about this on Team List Tuesday, but when you've got a bunch of other 13s like Kurt Mann, Ruben Cotter, Aaron Clark, Dylan Walker, both of them in that Warriors side, you've obviously got as well off the top of the brain. You've got so many 13s. Cam Murray, Isaiah Yeo is a good example, just the ball playing wise. But these smaller mobile guys like your Kurt Manns, like your Ruben Cotters, who can get the ball out wide, leg speed, quick play the balls. It is harder for those bigger 13s, and this is why Parramatta struggled so much last year, because Joe Hangawa was at 13, just couldn't keep up with the speed there through the middle of these younger and more mobile forwards. But when you've got all of these guys in the competition, and then you've got the best 13s in the game, Yo, Murray, Paddy Carrigan, they can move the ball really well. Even though it's not something that Paddy Carrigan is known for, and he's moving into the front row this year, more so with Yowie and Murray, just the ball playing through the middle, especially Murray. It is hard for these sort of bigger front rowers to keep up with that. So really good to see Morgan Smithies has worked on his game throughout the preseason, and especially adding that ball playing temperament to his game. It's something that I've really enjoyed watching for the little time that he was on the weekend. Let's move on to the Wars as well. I mean, you talk about that 13 jersey. You've obviously got Aaron Clark and Dylan Walker. That 1-2 punch, we saw it in the trials. As soon as Dylan Walker came onto the field, he was outstanding. Really, really solid impact for this side. Ball playing as well, acting like a second 5'8", and having that contrast, because you know that Aaron Clark, being that smaller mobile middle at 13, he'll get through the tough stuff. So it allows for Dylan Walker to actually expand his game rather than what we saw from him last year, playing that Aaron Clark role and playing a bit of a mixture of both. Dylan Walker can solely come on and be a bit of a roaming lock with the ball playing, acting as a second 5'8", and adding that impact that we saw in the trial. So that's something that I sort of enjoyed watching as well for the Warriors. One thing to keep an eye on, obviously, with the Warriors here as well, Dimitri Valmunga and Leka Halasima. I'm keen to see the minute disparity of both of these guys, not just from a Warriors perspective, but also from a Supercoach perspective as well. These guys will be two cheapies that will probably be attractive throughout the year, and certainly guys that I'll be watching, and probably guys that I'll pick up that are going to be sitting around the 200, 300, 400k mark. Just to have some cheapies in the side. So Dimitri Valmunga, Leka Halasima, two guys to watch going into round one as well in regards to getting one of those as a cheapie. And then finally, Owen Paddy. Owen Paddy there at 14. Obviously, he will be coming on and playing a bit of 9. But the big talking point more so is the fact that he beat out Danny Levi, to that jersey. Obviously, really impressive during the trials. Really good ball playing. His ruck recognition, getting out of dummy half, being crafty. He actually reminds me a lot of Reece Robson. He's like a little combo of a Reece Robson. Just Reece Robson, because Reece Robson actually has that running game at a dummy half as well. So he does remind me a lot of Reece Robson. Not so much with the service. Reece Robson's service is at a pretty high level. Owen Paddy, he's got pretty decent service, but is it at that Robson level? Not really. But when you're trying to draw player comparisons, Owen Paddy is very similar to a Reece Robson, and I think that he's going to be really good for the Raiders. So much so, I honestly think that he could be a guy that ends up starting the year, and maybe Tom Starling comes off at 14 and has that a little bit more leg speed, very fast, very similar to Cookie. where he can come on and add that a bit of speed around the ruck as well. And Tom Starling, we've seen him come into a bit of a lock role as well at the back end of last year. I want to keep that going this year, and I hope we do get to see it as well, especially when Owen Paddy gets onto the field, around tired forwards as well. Comes out of dummy half, and Tom Starling's running a really good line in between the markers and and he can sort of cut through the defence and really cause some havoc. So I really do think that Tom Starling is definitely going to be one to watch here just in that lock forward role. But Owen Paddy as well, coming off the bench, playing a bit of 9. I've really liked what I've seen from him so far. We'll get to the bet at the end because it's one bet for both games. It's probably what we're going to do if we do these previews, for all of the teams on YouTube. We'll probably get one bet for all of the games, our best bet, if you like, for the week. Just saves us from, putting a bet on for every game and that getting a bit repetitive. We can have one big bet that you guys look forward to for the week. I think that's a little bit better. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Panthers and Sharks. Really looking forward to this one. Obviously, a few stars out for the Penrith Panthers. Brian To'o's out. You've obviously got a few other guys out of this backline as well. Casey McLeany's on one wing. We knew that was going to happen. But Paul Alamonti's been shifted out of centre, and he has gone onto the wing. Obviously, with the absence of Brian To'o. Luke Garner comes into centre, and it's not something that I would really expect. You've got a few young guys that potentially deserve those opportunities. Jesse McLean sitting there as well. You could have had Alamonti in at centre and moved Jesse McLean to the wing, which, to be honest, Jesse McLean's here. He's come over to Vegas. It wouldn't shock me if we do see that happen. But it's probably the way that I would have gone just quietly. So we'll see if there is a late change there. Maybe Garner goes to the bench for a Laurent Bataille. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe that is a little bit of a blitz play that maybe they save to before kickoff, which wouldn't surprise me at all. But the team list as it stands here for the Panthers, it is Edwards fullback. We've got Casey McLean and Paul Alamonti on the wings. We've got Isaac Tungo and Luke Garner in the centres. Jack Cole wins the spot at 6. We'll talk about that in a second. Nathan Cleary 7. We've got Moses Leota and Lindsay Smith in the front row. We've got Mitch Kenny at 9. We've got Scott Sorensen and Liam Martin in the back row with Isaiah Yeo at 13. Dane Laurie, Isaiah Papali'i, Matt Eisenhuth and Laurent Bataille on the bench. For the Sharkies, we've got Will Kennedy at fullback. We've got Sam Stonestreet and Ronaldo Mulatalo on the wings. Jesse Raymond, Kale Idor in the centres. We've got Braden Trindle and Nico Hines in the halves. Adam Fanua-Blake up front with Oregon Kaufusi. Blake Brayley at 9. Britton Nickera, Teague Wilton in the back row with Cam McInnes at 13. Dan Atkinson, Siasi Talakai, Braden Hamlin-Uele, and Tom Hazelton there on the bench for the Sharkies. Sharkies paying $2.19. The Panthers paying $1.68. These are the prices as of now. These prices are subject to change. We'll talk about the betting side of things a little bit later in the podcast. But let's go into this game. What are we looking out for here in this one? What are the key takeaways from this team list? Well, I'll tell you one straight off the bat. Obviously, Brian To'o out of this side. Big loss for the Panthers. The work that he gets through coming out of yardage is huge. They do get Paul Alamonti on that wing. He is a gun. He is good in yardage as well. Defensively, though, he has improved out of sight since going to the Panthers. Moving to that wing position, that's going to be an interesting watch. He was a lot better at centre throughout the year for the Panthers. So watching him on the wing, that's definitely going to be interesting. But I feel like in terms of yardage carries, you're going to get a similar output. Definitely not the level of Brian To'o, but definitely a similar output there from Paul Alamonti, just watching his games last year. Luke Garner, the centre, is an interesting one. Obviously has covered at centre and played a little bit of centre for the Roosters when he was there a few years back. Tigers, he played a little bit of centre filling in. But, obviously he's playing at starting centre here. Even though they've got a Jesse McLean available, who is a really good winger. They could have moved Paul Alamonti into the centres, which is his better position. I mean, I just don't get that sort of thing. As I said, it might be a blitz play for a little bit later on before kickoff. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird one for me. Will be very interesting to watch. Obviously doesn't possess really the speed there. He runs a good line. Maybe that's just what they're looking for. Someone that can do a job, defensively solid. Maybe that's what they're going for there with Luke Garner if they're going to keep him there. I mean, it's not just the Panthers that are missing a right winger. Also, we do have the Sharkies who miss Sione Katoa, who obviously couldn't make the trip over, has a real bad injury, and he's out of this one for the next 5 to 8 weeks, I think it was there for Sione Katoa. Sam Stonestreet's going to be a watch, though. Coming into this side on the right wing, killed it in the trials. He's killed it last year in all of his times coming into this side while there has been injury in the back line. I mean, fuck, this is a guy that could take first grade spots. I'm not saying he's going to take Katoa's spot because Katoa is a really good winger. He does a great job, but he is a guy that could walk into a lot of other lower first grade sides and be a starting winger for a franchise. That is for sure. He is an absolute gun. He's ready for first grade. Currently off contract for next year, I believe. He is going to be a watch. He's going to be a serious watch. I don't think he's going to be wanting to sit in reserve grade for the Sharkies for long. I think we're going to see that in this game and in the games over the next 4 to 5 weeks. We are going to see that from Sam Stonestreet. He is going to be a watch going into the start of the year. And as I said, he is a guy that will steal first grade spots. Very interested to see how he starts the year for the Sharkies. Obviously, a big talking point throughout the offseason was Will Kennedy in his form. I think that the backlash towards Will Kennedy is actually quite unwarranted. He's a very simple fullback. We look at a lot of fullbacks these days, and what is the big thing that we love seeing with fullbacks? The explosiveness that in their style of play. It's what we love seeing from fullbacks in the competition at the moment. Will Kennedy is not shy to obviously having those big plays and special moments, but there's a lot less of them from Will Kennedy than what we see from other fullbacks. And I guess people want to see the explosive fullback in every single football side. Will Kennedy is not that guy. He comes in, he ices opportunities. That's what we expect to see from Will Kennedy. Nothing really else. I think that, as I said, the criticism to him is unwarranted. I think that he is a good fullback. I think that he does a good job. However, you look at the Sharks, they're a premiership threat this year at their best. You know, they've got Adam Fanua-Blake up front now, which pretty much puts the icing on the cake in regards to what they've needed to be a premiership team. But Will Kennedy, do they need a bit more of an explosive output from him, or do they need a more explosive fullback? We're going to see that in the opening rounds. But he did come into the trials. He did get a huge opportunity to be that guy, and I thought he played well. I don't think he was that explosive fullback that people want him to be. I think that he just iced opportunities. He came in, he was classy, had a really nice touch, and he did his job. And that's what I want to see the most from Will Kennedy, when I want to see the big plays and I want to see icing opportunities and, you know, really executing well on high and low percentage plays. I'd rather that second one. I mean, a perfect example of this. A perfect example of this is Reece Walsh. He is a gun. He has some massive plays in games. But there's a lot of times where those low percentage plays don't get executed. And you sit there and you go, oh, fuck, I wish you just executed a bit of a higher rate. Will Kennedy can execute at a very high rate, but he doesn't have a lot of flashy plays. He just plays high percentage. He executes those tip-ons really, really well. He's got a great understanding of the game. That's the player that Will Kennedy is. But we do need a little bit more X factor, a little bit more meterage, a little bit more output from Will Kennedy. I think that that's more so the criticism and probably what the Sharks need, rather than more low percentage plays. So I'm keen to see Will Kennedy and how he goes. I think that he is going to have a strong game. He's going to be safe. But yeah, look, if the Sharks want to go for a more explosive low percentage fullback, and that's what a lot of people are saying wins comps. It is what it is, but I like Will Kennedy there at fullback, and I think that when you've got so many stars in this side that have those low percentage plays, your Mulitalos, your Hineses, you know, you've got a lot of stars in this team, maybe you don't need that fullback. Maybe we are overreacting in that regard. Let's wait and see. Speaking of Ronaldo Mulitalo, he's going to be a big watch in this one. Massive year last year, just re-signed with the Sharks. I am looking forward to seeing how he goes. Just devoured an entire pizza, so a bit of indigestion. But Ronaldo Mulitalo, he is an absolute gun. Love watching him play every single week. He's a total freak. Things that he can do with the football, it is crazy. I reckon he could play centre. I reckon he could play fullback if he wanted to and do a really good job in those positions. His ball playing for winger is insane. And as I said, just some of the plays that he can come up with, it is just off its head. So he's going to be a main watch for me in this one as well, how he's coming into the season. Other guys to look out for, I know this one has already gone to the 20-minute mark. We want to sort of cap it off pretty soon. Addin Fonua-Blake up front, obviously his first official game as a Cronulla Shark. That's going to be great to watch. Even Oregon Kaufusi going up against Lindsay Smith and Moses Leota. Moses Leota's a bigger watch than Addin Fonua-Blake in the sense that we know what we're going to get from Addin Fonua-Blake, but I want to see what we get from Moses Leota. I want to see if he plays more minutes with Fish gone. I want to see that dynamic with Lindsay Smith, and if it's still as hard-hitting, that's going to be the big thing for me. The real good pointer for Penrith in the first 8 weeks is going to be how these front rowers play, their dynamic, and their minutes disparity. How many minutes is Leota playing? How many minutes is Lindsay Smith going to play in this side as well? That's going to be a huge watch for me. It's something I'm really excited to watch out for as well. Mitch Kenny at 9's a gun. Him and Blake Brayley, it's going to have a really good matchup. And I almost think with Laurie Daly coming in for Origin and these two both attending the New South Wales launch for the Blues, I honestly think that these two could be shooting it out along with Reece Robson for 9 and 14 spots. That's going to be a real big watch this year. Yowie, keen to see how he's coming into the year as well. Laurie off the bench, where does he play? That's going to be a big thing for me to watch as well. Two gun utilities in him and Atkinson fighting it out. Isaiah Papali'i is probably the last big point for me. Where is he going to come onto the field? Is he going to come on an edge? Is he going to come on in the middle? There's rumours for both. Is Sorensen an 80-minute back rower? We're going to find out. Does Martin spend some time in the middle? We're going to find that out as well. I'm keen to see that three-way dynamic, if there is one, or if he just comes on and plays in the middle. That's a really dynamic sort of role coming on for Yowie and just being an absolute gun. Keen to see if that's the case as well. Let's get stuck into our bet of the week for Vegas. We have got the Penrith Panthers to win 1-12. I think it's going to be a real tight contest over there in Vegas. I think that obviously with Toto out, it is going to be a loss yardage-wise. And I also think that the Sharks need to make up for that trial that we saw them playing as well. Their first grade side was ordinary against the Warriors. They need to really turn it up. So Ronaldo Mulitalo to score a try in this one. Penrith Panthers to win 1-12. It is weird going for a Panthers 1-12 with a Sharks try scorer. Well, that's what I'm going with in this contest. And then leg 2, it is going to be the Canberra Raiders to get the job done head-to-head. I like them in this one as the underdog. They are paying $2.25 as well, so I really like that. Adding that into the multi along with Tane Tuapiki to score anytime. I'm going with the winner and then an opposite team member to score a try for both games. Tane Tuapiki is a gun. He will score a try in this contest. You put all of that together, it's $36. Get stuck into it. But more importantly, gamble responsibly, guys. You win some, you lose more. What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.com.au. There you go, guys. That is your Vegas preview. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube. Become a part of the Big LEZ'S League community. Subscribe to the YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Big LEZ'S League _ on Instagram. Make sure you give us a follow. We're going to see you guys in the next one.